Hi, friends. I'm Lori Palau, host of the popular weekly podcast, This Organized Life, founder of Simply Be Organized, and author of the book Hot Mess, A Practical Guide to Getting Organized. For the past 7 years, we've been sharing stories, interviews, and strategies to help you live a more organized life. Whether you're struggling with physical clutter, calendar clutter, digital clutter, or just overwhelmed with the mental load of all the things, we're here to help you every step of the way. We know that one of the biggest struggles many of us face is time, and even finding the time to listen to a 45-minute long episode might not even be doable, which is why we've created this Organized Life Tip of the Week. These short episodes are designed to give you a little boost to start your week off on the right foot in under 15 minutes. This might be something that I'm doing in my personal life that I wanted to share, a tip that someone shared with me that I want to pass along to you, or maybe it might just be a prompt or story to help you think differently about the true meaning of clutter. New episodes of our Tip of the Week are automatically going to show up in your podcast feed on Mondays, and our regular long-form episodes will continue to drop each and every Thursday. Now, if you're new here, make sure to click the subscribe or follow button for instant access to all of our 300 plus past episodes. And if you're already subscribed to TOL, there's nothing that you need to do. Our bonus episodes should already be in your feed. Regardless of whether you just found us or you're one of our OG listeners, I am so happy that you're here. Now, let's get to it. Hey guys, Lori here from This Organized Life podcast, and I am so excited that you are here to join me for our tip of the week. I love these short little episodes because it allows me to just kind of get right to it without the fluff and dive into kind of let's address this topic and help you streamline your clutter and take action. And then if you want longer episodes, hit us up on Thursdays, and that's our conversations and really thought-provoking, and I love those. So if you're brand new to our show, just stumbled across us, make sure to click that subscribe or follow button wherever you're listening or watching. And again, hop on our email list. We send out a summary of our episodes along with a link to our YouTube as well as for podcasting for your audio episodes every Monday and every Thursday. So this way, if you're busy and you are like, oh, I didn't hop in the podcast feed and this is a topic that really speaks to you, you can be like, oh, I definitely want to put this in the queue, or I definitely want to listen to this, or maybe something that you're like, oh, I have a friend that could totally relate to this, and you'll just forward it over. So we have a link in the show notes. Make sure to just hop on our newsletter because that is the best way for you to connect up with us. Okay, so let's get into today's episode, which is all about donating old books. And what I find when I mention this topic to people, whether in real life or if I'm talking to a client or whatever, I oftentimes am met with like this almost an emotional response. And from a lot of people where it's like, oh my goodness, I could never donate books, whether that is my kids' books or my own books. And I think it's interesting because I feel like we have different kinds of camps of people. We've got some people that are not really big readers, so they don't really, this isn't necessarily an issue for them because it's not how they consume their content. And then you have other people who love to read, and maybe they're not library users. We're talking about people that are buying books like, oh, I went to my local bookstore, or I went on Amazon, or I went to Barnes and Nobles, or wherever you're getting your books, and got a bunch of books, read them, and then they sit on my shelf. And so I think it becomes really difficult for people to then take the time to sit down and say, what do I want to keep? What do I want to get rid of? And even if it's for adults, let alone kids, right? Because kids is a whole other animal where you're like, my kids outgrew this. Sometimes you're going to bin them up and save them because you may have another kid coming down the pike, or like, this was a keepsake and I want to hold on to this. Or my kid's not quite into chapter books, but I have a bunch. I'm going to have them off to the side and just kind of cycle them through when they get ready. But with like adult content books, not adult content books, but books for adults, we oftentimes read them and then they sit on our shelves. And so I think for me, it's been really helpful to set like some criteria around what is an immediate thing that I'm going to get rid of if it falls into kind of certain categories. And again, don't have to be legalistic about this. There's always gray areas, there's always exceptions to the rule, but it helps with that decision fatigue that so many of us struggle with when you're like, if it falls into this category, this is what I've decided the course of action is going to be. So, one of the main things that I ask people all the time is this book outdated? Is it still relevant? And that can pertain to textbooks. I see a lot of people that still have like textbooks from college or grad school that they've had that are, maybe pertaining to something about computers, or you never know, like anything that is like a constantly evolving technology where this doesn't even pertain to us anymore. So excuse me. So yeah, so looking at, is this book even something that makes sense? Like all those fill in the blank for dummies book. Like I can't even remember the one that we had recently or that I stumbled across not too long ago. And I was like, this is like so outdated. The content that's in here doesn't even like it doesn't even exist anymore. It's not even relevant. And so those are great examples of like easy things, almost treating it like a food that's expired. Like we're no longer using this. The other thing is, can I get this information digitally? Right. So you think about something like a set of encyclopedias, which our younger generation has never experienced. But, you think about things of like, okay, we had this because this was our only way that we could consume this knowledge. But are we able to get this information in other places? And is this real estate better served with like newer stuff? Do we want to free it up so that we can have space for something else or to replenish with new books, which is totally fine. One of the things that I love bookshelves. We have like a library in our home and we have got, built-ins with beautiful books. And I want to showcase that library. I don't, when it gets overflowing with books, then it just takes away and it seems crowded and cluttered and nobody likes that. You want to be able to see the books that you have so that if you do choose to go back, you want to make sure that you can actually see what you have. And so thinning things out, cycling things through is a great way to do that. So look at like, can I get this information somewhere else? I think that's really, really important. And then the third thing that I always tell people is to have like that honest conversation. Is this something I'm going to reread? Or is it something like I went on a beach vacation and I read this really fun book and it was kind of fluff and there's nothing wrong with that. But you know what? Maybe I'll just give it to a friend. Maybe I'll just say, hey, do you want to read this book? Or maybe I'll donate it to my local library. Or if you've ever seen, if in your town you have those like little free library book things that like people have, on their lawns or like at a local park or whatever. I love, love, love those. I actually thought about getting one for us, but that's for another time. Um, just donate those books in there. I think that's great. Other places, the other problem that a lot of people have is they don't know where to donate. So who wants these books? Because sometimes charitable organizations are like, we have a lot of books. We don't necessarily want them. So I think it's important to look at like, where can I donate these books that are going to appreciate them. And this goes for a lot for cookbooks, guys. I know like I have a bunch of cookbooks and the reality of it is for me, I go to the internet when I want a recipe. I go to Pinterest, I'll Google something if I want to make it. I have my own like homemade recipe book where I'll like add things into it. But I only have I've held on to a few actual true cookbooks that I like. But a lot of the stuff that I have, I'm like, I don't go here. So I had that like honest conversation of like, it's just kind of taking up space. I'm not using this. So just that's another one. That's another example. Just kind of came to me. But going back to like, where can you donate books? So here's a few options. Kid books. Again, your local, I always start with your local libraries. Ask them, what are you accepting? What are you in need of? And they'll oftentimes tell you what genres they will and will not accept. So that's a great place to just go and donate them. Other donation places, preschools for kids' books, churches, synagogues, like other kind of religious organizations. A lot of times they will have their own libraries of different types of, books. I've even talked to some local doctor's offices, depending on, there might be some like health concerns, but it doesn't hurt to ask like, hey, in a waiting room, if you guys do you want any books? Do you need anything? Again, doesn't hurt for you to ask. And then of course, if you do want to sell them, depending on the types of books that you have, there are local book resellers and you can go and ask them. I always encourage people, before you just come in with boxes of books, check with them first, see what it is that they are accepting, what they're in need of, so you can come prepared and not waste your time or their time. So those are just a couple of different options for you. And I encourage people to kind of make this a practice, especially if you are somebody who's an avid reader and you're constantly bringing new books into your home, that you say, hey, like every, and it's not something that you have to do all the time, but you could do it like once or twice a year and just go through and say, I'm going to go through these books and donate these or give these away. Another fun thing that you can do with your friends, and I did this years ago and it's super fun, is a book swap. So again, I love hospitality, I love getting people together. So if you are somebody that likes to entertain and likes to do this, you can invite a bunch of friends over and set up, if you have the space, like set up a couple of folding tables and maybe even just tag it like by genre, like nonfiction, fiction, children's books, self-help, whatever you wanted, like however you want to do it. You don't have to get super like in the weeds with it. I would keep it pretty broad and invite your friends, tell them to bring a box of books. Like you don't want them bringing truckloads, but bring a box of books, put it on the table and shop each other's books. It's a great way to save money so that you're not, consuming books, even though, listen, as an author, I'm all about supporting other authors. But you can swap things out. I did this with friends for my kids years ago, and Logan was on this big Garfield kick. And someone had a complete collection of Garfield books, and I was able to just come home and like gift her this, and it cost me nothing. It was great because it was free. It was just a free book swap. You're just going in there, and I came, and she was so thrilled that she had this new book, and I had taken a bunch of books that she was like no longer reading, and somebody else grabbed them for their kids. So you could do it with kids' books, you could do it with adults again, but it's just a fun like girls' night out where you can, and if you're the type of person, like I said, like me, I love to host and have an excuse to have people over, and this is a great way to do it. And then what I would do also is I would arrange for a donation, either pickup or drop off of whatever's going to be left, because as the host, you don't want to be stuck now with all these books that you don't want. So I would have a backup plan for what's going to be left over, where that's going to get donated to. But it's a really fun way to share knowledge and get together with people and declutter your house. So that, my friends, is my tip for today. And it is to, again, tie it up with a nice neat bow, declutter old books. We'll be back next week with another episode of our short tip of the week, and we'll see you on Thursday for our long form episodes. Until then, I'm Lori Plow. Peace out. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, please spread the love and share it with your friends. And if this is your first time joining us, make sure to click the subscribe button wherever you are listening so you never miss an episode. And while you're there, please leave us a review so other people know that our show is worth the listen. You can also find us on YouTube and Instagram at This Organized Life Podcast. And if you'd like to connect with us, you can head on over to our website at simply the letter B like boy organized.com, which is filled with tons of resources, including free downloads, checklists, links to our amazing organizing partners, and all of our digital offerings. I'll see you next week for another episode of This Organized Life.